Ave Maria, welcome back to No Apologies. I'm Brother Joseph, and today we're going to take a look at the heresy of Gnosticism. Although Gnosticism existed many years before Christianity, the Church fought against their errors in the 1st and 2nd century as it sought to adopt and distort Christian beliefs. There are many different schools of Gnostics, each with its own complex system, but in general we can point out some of their dominant characteristics and beliefs. They believed in a divine being which was unknowable and unapproachable, and this being brought forth from himself what you could call a lesser god, whom they called Aeons. And through a very windy maze of tales and mythologies, there came into existence a being separated from, and in a sense fallen from, these Aeons, which is sometimes called the Demiurge. The Demiurge is who created the material world. And because this material world is separated from the Aeons and unable to attain incorruption, is considered evil. The soul of man was placed in him by another, unbeknownst to Demiurge, and it's this soul which is able to obtain salvation, meaning able to return to the place of the Aeons. It's how that salvation is accomplished that the Gnostics received their name, from the Greek word Gnosis, which means knowledge. When a person became enlightened by the knowledge and profession of the things just explained, they were considered to have arrived at perfect knowledge of God and the universe, thus becoming spiritually mature and securing their place with the Aeons after being freed from the prison of the body. This knowledge placed them above other men and beyond the moral laws which govern other men. So what would be considered a sin and a stumbling block for the unenlightened wasn't for a Gnostic who was now spiritually mature and thus unaffected spiritually by any kind of act. And it was also their teachings on Christ which pitted them directly against the Church. Christ to them was an Aeon who had appeared on earth to reveal this secret knowledge to a select few, while feeding the rest of the masses with bits and pieces as they were able. His appearance as a man was just that, only an appearance, because since matter is evil, in no way could an Aeon take to himself a true body, which was a direct denial of the Incarnation. The Gnostics constructed and defend all of these beliefs from any source that they can find and force into their own thoughts, ancient mythologies, other religions, and traditions, which also included sacred scripture. For example, they give such a radical and confusing defense of the creation and existence of the Aeons from St. John's Gospel that it's impossible to present it in a format like this, while at the same time as St. Irenaeus, they completely ignore the last part of that prologue, which says, "And the Word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us." Another example is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 3:23, which state that Jesus was about 30 years old when he began his public ministries. The Gnostics read into this their doctrine that there are a total of 30 Aeons, and they also say that the fact that prior to those 30 years he did no public works teaches that these Aeons are hidden except to the unenlightened. So these kinds of self-assertions, which are based on no authority but their own, are described by St. Irenaeus in his book Against Heresies. He says, "Their manner of acting is just as if when a beautiful image of a king has been constructed by some skillful artist out of precious jewels, should then take this likeness of the man all to pieces, should rearrange the gems, so fit them together as to make them into the form of a dog or of a fox, and even that but poorly executed, and should then maintain and declare that this was the beautiful image of the king with which the skillful artist constructed." Another point St. Irenaeus makes is that in comparing the different schools of Gnosticism, you find many contradictions and discrepancies amongst their own ideas and mythologies. So while claiming to be the true Christian Church, these things are a sure sign that these systems are the work of men rather than of Christ, who came and taught just one faith, which was to be passed on to all nations intact and uniform. Knowledge of Gnostics can be helpful today and recognizing and refuting the different philosophies, practices, and beliefs that we find in the New Age movement. Here, too, a promise is made of unlocking secret knowledge of the universe and human potential. And this knowledge is offered through things like crystals, spells and charms, incantations, and seances. And once found, it places the now enlightened on a pillar above others. No longer bound by the laws of nature, they are able to go beyond, tapping into secret powers with which to indulge their self-will and self-love. Like Gnosticism, the New Age movement also adopts and distorts terminology and beliefs from any other sources in order to fit them into their own thoughts. Many points of science, astrology, and other religions are given completely different meanings, and often these meanings are so vague and abstract that they come out only mistaking the ridiculous for something mystical or sublime. So thanks for joining me here on No Apologies. Ave Maria.